PC. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Yeah, bit of a vinyl update. As you know, I kind of like to theme my vinyl finds in a genre or a thread or like a topic. And as you probably saw in the footage at the beginning of this video, I got back from seeing the Saints last night here in Wellington at a venue called Meow Nui. And I felt inspired, and I thought this is the time to show some records, some Australian records. So these are all kind of things I've picked up over the past kind of year, maybe year and a half, that I just haven't shown. I haven't had time to put them into a vinyl finds video, so I thought I'd kind of gather them all up and talk about them a little bit today. Yeah, so first of all, I should say that I did spend 10 years of my 20s and early 30s in Melbourne, where I learned a lot about Australian music that I probably wouldn't have known about otherwise. I think there's just an amazing, rich sense of rock and roll in Australian music history, you know. I'm talking about a lot of these artists today, and there's definitely a lot more that I am not mentioning. This is not a video on the subject of Aussie punk, post-punk, garage rock, rock and roll. It's just some vinyl finds that I have picked up and wanted to show. So I'm just putting out there, it's not an educational video, it's just a vinyl finds themed around the records I've picked up. But anyway, in the background is not a post-punk, garage rock and roll thing. It's something a lot more ambient, a lot more relaxing. I sometimes find when I put music in the background, there's a bit too much going on. It can be quite distracting from what I have to say. So I have picked something that is not Australian, but it's from a really, really cool Aussie label called Efficient Space, which I highly recommend. This is a compilation called Searchlight, Moonbeam. And it's kind of it came out in 2023 originally, but there is a 2025 repress. This is what I grabbed. It's very hard to explain what it is, but it's kind of a compilation that follows a vibe or a theme. It's kind of a cross between like modern ambient, folk music, world, experimental. It sounds almost like it could be a Japanese soundtrack, or it sounds like what I would listen to in autumn or the fall. It's just really, really beautiful. There's some classical pieces, there's some Indian pieces, there's some ambient kind of pieces, there's a lot of kind of almost indie and almost trip hoppy pieces on here. A lot of artists you probably would never have heard of, but probably the biggest name I was surprised to see was Slap Happy is on this compilation. Yeah, please do check it out. It's available on streaming. It's called Searchlight Moonbeam. It does change quite a lot as you get through 2 LPs worth, but I really, really like it. That's what's going on in the background. Yeah, so, all right, on to the topic at hand. Yeah, so I went to see the Saints last night. Obviously, Chris Bailey, the lead singer, has passed away, and obviously for that reason is not singing. That's kind of obvious, but Mark Arm, the lead singer of Mudhoney, was the vocalist, which was kind of interesting. I didn't love it. I didn't mind it. He kind of sang in more of a Iggy Pop kind of way. But I had a good time. They played a lot of cracking songs, high energy, lots of fun. But yeah, it kind of inspired me to get behind the camera and talk about some Saints records and other bits and pieces. Yeah, no, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Mick Harvey from the Bad Seeds was also playing in the band as well, so it was kind of a super group of sorts. Yeah, so there we go. So I should say that if you see me glancing down below the camera a bit, I took some notes before this because I'm getting old and I can't remember everything. I used to do these videos kind of just on the top of my head in one take, but I get a lot of people these days correcting me in the comments So I'm trying to be a bit more specific with what I say. Anyway, what are we on? 5 minutes, and I haven't even started talking about records yet. We'll start at the beginning. Absolute Aussie rock and roll, garage rock classic. This is The Saints' I'm Stranded, released in 1977. Famously and questionably, The Saints may have released the first ever punk single. Questionably, I think. I mean, it's definitely the first punk single outside of the US and the UK. I think people say that I think it's New Rose by The Damned. I didn't pull that out actually. Was released a couple of months before. No, this was recorded before but released after that. And Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones was released just after the single. So the track I'm Stranded, which was the song in the video I showed you at the beginning, technically is considered one of the first singles outside of the US and the UK, which is pretty amazing to think they were doing this stuff at the bottom end of the world, completely separate from anyone else, just like mere months kind of apart, weeks apart. But yeah, it's a seminal album, marks like a starting point for punk in Australia, and it gives a lot of context for how the music kind of evolved. So February 1977, Chris Bailey, Ed Quepper, Ivor Hay, and Kim Bradshaw on bass. Just fantastic. Just rock and roll, searing guitars, high pace, snarling vocals, catchy hooks. Brilliant. Absolute Aussie classic, I would say. This has been reissued, I think it was this year, as a 4LP box set thing, which I haven't checked out. I probably don't need it, to be honest, but I think there's also other reissues available quite easily. I was lucky to pick that one up in Melbourne years back now for a great price. I think they're quite expensive these days. The follow-up, which came out really soon after, I think it was 1978. This is Eternally Yours. I think it came out on, for some reason I want to say on Harvest, but I could be wrong. Oh no, mine's an EMI pressing. So this is kind of an evolution, but kind of a bit of a sidestep there with the introduction of a horn section. So I would say, this sounds terrible, but horn-driven punk. Like post-punk, horn-driven punk. A little bit more R&B touches to it. I could imagine this would have been quite controversial at the time, as it kind of alienated the pure raw punk aesthetic a bit, and definitely marked like a big shift by bringing the horns. But this is absolutely fantastic. Groove, funk, the horn section just absolutely makes this work. In terms of mixing a raw garage punk sound with a horn sound, they absolutely nail it. The first track is an absolute stomper, and I was really happy they played it last night. It's called Know Your Product. Please check that one out. Also, the first track on side 2, This Perfect Day, I absolutely love. I enjoy this one more than the first album. As important as the first album is, this is just a bit more diverse. Eternally Yours, fantastic. And Chris Bailey's vocals are just like at the top of their game at this point. He's just got this really amazing snarl and drawl and attitude and swagger, just a real frontman. It's just great fun rock and roll music that is just good for the soul, you know. Just a really fun album. And I think a year later they released this album here. This is the Saints' Prehistoric Sound. I think it came out in 1979. This is the one that was on EMI Harvest. Here, this is another, lucky enough to get another Aussie pressing of this. I can't be sure, but I'm pretty sure this was not very well received, as it kind of went further away again from the punk sound and almost brought in a darker bluesy's not right, but it was definitely a bit darker, a bit sparser, a bit more of a focus on the horn section again. I really like this, but there's some really strong songs on here, some really great lyrics, but definitely again moves away from that initial sound. I think they kind of had the foresight to realize that punk wasn't going to last, and they embraced that. But yeah, I really like this record. All three are essential Aussie rock classics, really. They really changed music in Australia. So yeah, fantastic, the Saints. Really happy that I got to see them. 2 original members is all I can do, being my age. But yeah, I had a really fun time. It was a great night. So that's the Saints. I'm sure lots of you do know the Saints. A lot of you probably don't. But yeah, if you're just looking for great Aussie rock and roll fun music, I really recommend them. Alright, moving on. So this is the Laughing Clowns' Law of Nature. Now what happened is the guitarist from the Saints, after the last album I showed, left the band to create this group here called the Laughing Clowns. This album came out in 1984 on the Hot Records label. This has also been reissued this year as well. I was really lucky to find this just a few weeks ago at a record fair for a really cheap price. Of note would be on piano is Chris Abrahams, which anyone who's a big fan of the Necks would know, but not a lot of people know he's actually a Kiwi and was born in Oamaru down in the South Island. But yeah, the piano player for the Necks, a young Chris Abrahams plays on this. Interestingly, they redo Eternally Yours, but with a more sort of experimental jazz-infused version of it. This is definitely kind of moving in a more experimental direction, but again, great lead saxophones and trumpets and textures. Not a straightforward punk thing at all, and kind of bridges that kind of like art rock post-punk thing. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of covers of soul tracks on here, but I can't remember what they are, so I'm not going to talk about that. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Not as good as the Saints records for sure, but if you see it cheap, if you're at this bottom of the world, this side of the world, check it out. This is Laughing Clowns' Law of Nature on Hot Records. As you all probably know, it was Halloween yesterday here, and probably whenever you're watching this, whenever this video goes out recently. Every year I like to spin this classic track here, The Birthday Party, Release the Bats. I'm sure everybody knows this. Just one of those absolutely killer singles. The bass, the energy, the mixture of punk, post-punk, gothic sounds, classic Birthday Party lineup. I love this track. I'm pretty sure this came out on 4AD in the UK, but this is the Aussie Missing Link pressing, which I'm really happy to have. It's not super rare or anything like that, but yeah, great bass playing as well on it, energy. Yeah, the Release the Bats, very happy to have that as a single. So yeah, that was playing here at the house on Friday evening, nice and loud. And then what have we got? These next 4 records, I was really happy to pick up, and I grabbed them all together. I'm a big fan of the Aussie swamp garage rock band Scientists. I was really lucky that I saw Kim Salmon, the vocalist, last year in a really small venue here in Wellington, which was absolutely fantastic. And I've been meaning to pick up the Numero Group compilation that came out a few years ago called A Place Called Bad, and I just haven't got around to it. But luckily I was digging through a collection, and the 4, I guess you'll call them EPs or mini EPs, were sitting right there in front of me for like a really cheap price, so I grabbed them. So the Scientists, if you like the Cramps, if you like swamp rock, garage rock, this is the band that kind of moved punk into a different kind of direction. I've picked up this here, Scientists Heading for a Trauma, absolutely fantastic. Check out the track. I really like Swampland and Purple Dress from this one. What labels are these on? This is on A Go Go Records, a really famous Aussie independent label. Heading for a Trauma. This is probably my favorite. This is Scientist's Blood Red River. Yeah, I mean, you can probably guess what this is like based on the artwork. Just absolutely fantastic. I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, these guys were from Perth, but they moved to Sydney. There's a track on here called Solid Gold Hell, which a Flying Nun band actually took and used it as their band name. Look at that artwork, man. Isn't that cool? That can be the thumbnail if I smile at the camera. And the last one, this is Atom Bomb Baby, which probably focuses a bit more of a straightforward rock kind of thing, but is really fantastic. But yeah, I do urge you to check out the Numero Group compilation, A Place Called Bad, I think it's called. But yeah, they all came out around between 84, I think it's like 83, 87. Just such a fertile scene in Australia around that time, because you know, you've got that sort of like punk and post-punk sound, but then you've got like the things like the really heavy Aussie rock and the AC/DCs and the Cold Chisels and the yeah, it's not really talked about enough, and I'm not an expert enough to talk about it, but just something about the remoteness of being down in Aussie, that they could do just a great balls to the walls rock and roll attitude, you know, and that kind of continued on, you know, right up to the present day, really, especially in the 90s and 2000s as well. But yeah, if you want to check out some Antipodean rock and roll, that's a few recommendations from me. I will leave it there. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you all for watching, etc., etc. I will see you all soon.